If you are thinking of moving to Kingsland, Georgia, you might want to hold on just a second. In today's video, I'm going to share 7 things that you need to be able to handle before making your move. And when you hear some of these, you might just decide right then and there that Kingsland just isn't the right fit for you. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing that we need to talk about is the small town feel of Kingsland, Georgia. Kingsland, Georgia is a very small town feel, charming, very slow paced. So for some people, you may be yearning for that just massive slowdown. Maybe you live in a large city and you just really want to get to a place where you can settle and slow down and be out of the hustle and bustle. And if that is you, then you'll absolutely love Kingsland. But if you are the type of person that thrives in a little bit of a faster paced community, then you might find Kingsland a little bit slow. I'm talking about, here in Kingsland, you will see your neighbors out at the grocery store, maybe again at the soccer game or the football game on Friday night. And we are the type of community where your neighbors are going to wave at you. They're going to talk to you at the grocery store. So if you prefer to walk around with your earbuds and absolutely see no one, then, you might find the slow paced feel of the charming small town a bit overwhelming. But if that is your vibe, then you'll absolutely love living in Kingsland, Georgia. And that leads me into the next thing that you need to know before moving to Kingsland is that it does have a limited nightlife and shopping scene. So of course we do have some cute local boutiques and 1 or 2 cute coffee shops, things like that. But if you are looking for city life, going out, going to different bars or different trendy restaurants, then you might find Kingsland a little bit slow in that regard. There are not a ton of options as far as shopping. So a lot of locals tend to go to Yulee, Florida that's where you're gonna go for Target, or maybe even up north towards Brunswick, because Kingsland doesn't have a Target. So there is a Walmart nearby. I don't know if it's actually in Kingsland or St. Mary's, because those two kind of intermingle. So if you want to know more about St. Mary's, I'll tag a video up here. So there's Walmart, but there's not a Target. And then in downtown Kingsland, it is cute. It is a strip, and there's Blue Bridge Coffee, which is really cute, like an antique shop, a couple other little places, but there aren't a ton of trendy restaurants and hip new things to try. And there's not really that many places for you to just like go out and grab a drink, that kind of style. And then as far as shopping, like I mentioned, there's not very much. In the strip where Publix is, there's a couple different places, and that's really about it. You've got like Tractor Supply, Home Depot. So there's not a ton of options, but like I said, Brunswick has more options. And then you're not far from Yulee, which is just over the Florida state line, and they have a lot of options. And then you're really not that far from Jacksonville either, which is where a ton of people go and do their shopping. And also, let's be real, you're doing most of your shopping online these days, shopping on Amazon and having it delivered to your doorstep in 2 or 3 days. So, but that is something to be aware of, that we don't have a ton of diversity when it comes to restaurants, shopping, nightlife. All right, and thing number 3, let's talk about something big, and that is homeowners associations. So I get a lot of relocation clients that reach out to me, which you can do that, by the way, if you are PCSing or moving to Kingsland, Georgia, and you need help on that front. I would love to talk to you. I'll put all my information right here. Seriously, I get calls, texts, emails every single day of people just like you looking to make a move, and I absolutely love hearing from you guys and connecting with you and possibly your families and helping you make that move here to Georgia. The next big thing, I get a lot of clients that they're like, hey, I am moving to Kingsland, Georgia, and I want yada yada style house, but I don't want to be in an HOA. It's a little bit tough coming to Kingsland, and for every client I have to go, well, because they're pretty adamant about not wanting an HOA, and then so we go see like 8 to 10 houses not in HOA, and immediately they're like, so about the HOA, where are the HOAs? I want to see the HOA homes. There are some neighborhoods that are in desirable locations that maybe do not have an HOA, or it's a very lax HOA. But for the most part, you're gonna find a lot of our neighborhoods, and especially in Kingsland, having a decent amount of new construction neighborhoods, they're going to have HOAs. And really, we don't have too many that are like overbearing, and they're not highly expensive like in some areas. So definitely, like when we talk and we're working together on a client relationship, we'll delve into that more. So let me know if that's a concern for you, because it's something you want to be aware of. You don't want to weed. I would not recommend weeding out HOAs right from the get-go, because you're going to weed out a lot of really great neighborhoods in a lot of really great areas of Kingsland. Now, there are some options, like I said, to where you can get a great house, maybe even in a desirable location in Kingsland that doesn't have an HOA. So if you're the type of person that's like, well, I want an acre or two, and obviously, like, we don't have not very many communities that have 1 to 2 acres in a neighborhood with an HOA. I mean, there are a few, but for the most part, we don't. You're going to likely have to look outside of Kingsland. So just north of Kingsland is Woodbine. That's going to give you a little bit more options as far as rural acreage, maybe getting to do what you want, build a barn of your choice, you know, have animals, have the livestock, that kind of stuff. You can find that in Kingsland. There are a couple places. So when you reach out to me, that's something we can talk about. But like I said, because we have a bigger presence of new construction neighborhoods in Kingsland, you are going to just see a lot more HOAs in town, in the city of Kingsland. All right, and thing number 4 is that there is a military presence, with the Kings Bay Naval Submarine Base being right here. Once again, I don't really know if it's a Kingsland address or a St. Mary's address, but it is like right in the middle of both. But because we have the military base there, we do have kind of a transient population. So we've got people coming in every 1 to 2 or 3 to 5 years. You know, maybe just like you, if you're PCSing here, then, you know, it may not be a forever for you. So just know that there is a good mix in population of long-term families that have grown up in Camden County and stuck around, and then also the transient kind of military families that come in and out for just a few years. So we do see a good turnover in terms of, you know, individuals and families that come in and out of Kingsland. But because of the military base, it's a very patriotic city. Oftentimes you'll see American flags hanging on front porches, things like that. So it is a very patriotic city here in Georgia. All right, and the next thing to consider is the weather and the storm seasons. Now, Kingsland is it's more inland than being like right on the coast. Obviously, St. Mary's is where you get that like on the coast. Even though it's a little more inland, it's classic coastal Georgia weather. You're gonna have long, hot, humid summers, and a lot of rain comes with those long, hot, humid summers. So we have a pretty big rainy summer season. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, I grew up in Georgia, but I didn't grow up in coastal Georgia. I grew up outside of Atlanta, but every time we would go to Florida, I had family in Destin. So anytime we went to Florida over the summer, it was like that classic just Florida afternoon shower just every day. It was expected when you're on vacation. You check the weather and you're like, oh, it's supposed to rain, but it's like a blow over storm. We kind of get that same thing here in coastal Georgia when it gets super hot in the super hot months of summer. And you almost come to like really appreciate those because it cools it down. It kind of washes away the pollen and the bugs for a little bit, and it's just nice. But with that, we do have to still prep here in Kingsland the same way or in similar ways for hurricane season, and more often than not, it ends up being a tropical storm, but we still experience those tropical storm force winds, and flooding is still possible, all of those factors that come along with hurricane season. So that is definitely something to consider, something to do your research on, and there are flood maps available out there. There's a lot of Kingsland that's not in a flood zone, but there are some spots in particular that are in flood zones. So that's definitely something to be aware of, and just to understand how to prep and when to prep your home, those kinds of things. And that's something that you and I can work on as we develop that client relationship. Again, all my information's down in the description box below. If you can handle those, you know, hot, humid summers, then you'll really love our mild winters. So that is something that we love about living here in coastal Georgia, is the fact that we are not dealing with snow. We're not shoveling snow. I don't have to have chains on my tires or anything like that. So we are preparing for the heat and the humidity and possible storms, but we're not at all preparing for anything really to do with snow. Now, we did experience a little bit of snow and ice this last year, and that was like the first time in 30 years. So that was pretty crazy. But for the most part, we're not preparing for snow. We do have pretty mild winters. You know, we do have January and February tend to be a little bit cold. That's like our true winter, January and February. And usually it's not even the whole month of February. So it's usually about a month and a half of pretty cold temperatures. But even during the day, when it's a sunny day, it'll still get up to 40 or 50. which to me is cold, but to someone who maybe lives in a northern region, that's not cold at all. If you're coming from somewhere up north, then you'll really probably love and appreciate our hot, humid summers and mild winters. Okay, and the next thing to talk about is, I kind of touched on the nightlife earlier, but let's just dive into the activities and things to do. So if you love outdoor activities, boating, fishing, kayaking, walking on trails, that kind of stuff, I'm not even gonna say hiking, because hiking makes me think you're in the mountains, and we are not in the mountains. So I don't wanna use the term hiking, but we do have walking trails and paths and things like that. So if you love that kind of stuff, you'll love the close access to Crooked River State Park, being really basically in St. Mary's, where you can access the waterfront. And not to mention, even through Kingsland, there's other inlets and stuff where you can let in kayaking and that kind of stuff. So if that is your vibe, then you will probably find that there's no short supply of things to do. But if you are more like, oh, I want to go to a museum or an art gallery, or a concert, or any of those kinds of stuff, you're going to have to drive. You're going to have to travel to Jacksonville likely for those things, or another larger city. But the great thing about being in Kingsland is you're right off Interstate 95, and so is Jacksonville. So you literally just hop on the interstate, and within 35 minutes you're in Jacksonville, which is one of the largest cities. And they're doing a ton of new stuff in Jacksonville. We love going to Jacksonville, and we can just zip up there and zip back down, and then you're not in all of the Jacksonville-ness. You're outside of it, living your small town best life, but still having close access to Jacksonville, because there's ViStar Arena, Daly's Place. As far as for concerts, we love going to concerts, and they have some great headliners that come there. And then we're also not far from St. Augustine, which has the St. Augustine Amphitheater, and they have a large amount of concerts as well. And not to mention, if you go north, you're not too far from Savannah as well, and they have tons of things to do, and tons of shopping, and tons of nightlife. Being in Kingsland, while there may not be much in the city of Kingsland, you're surrounded by tons of things to do. If you like history, there's a lot of history right here in Kingsland, St. Mary's, and then also in all of the neighboring cities, Brunswick, St. Simon's Island, Jekyll Island. So there really is no short supply of great activities. You just have to look for them, and you may have to drive 20 or 30 minutes to get to them. But if you're the type of person that wants more like commercialized stuff to do every single day, then you might find it a little bit sleepy and redundant, as in there's not going to be that much stuff for you to do. But if you can get creative, I promise you'll love it. Okay, and lastly, we're gonna talk about the housing market. So Kingsland is really unique in that it does actually have a lot of new construction options, and it tends to be a little bit more affordable than, say, St. Mary's. And Kingsland tends to be a little bit more affordable than even our neighboring cities up top in coastal Georgia, as far as like Brunswick, definitely more affordable than St. Simon's Island and Jekyll Island. But I would say Kingsland is even a little bit more affordable than Brunswick. Now, you are going to have a little bit of a tax difference, so pay attention to the taxes. Camden County taxes tend to be a little bit higher than Glenn County, but you're still going to see that tax break if you're coming from, say, Florida, or I've had clients come from New Jersey and their taxes are outrageous. So if you're coming from any of those other places, you're likely going to experience a tax break. But definitely when we work together, when you call me, we can talk about the taxes on specific houses. It's going to look a little bit different for each house. Whether or not you're Kingsland, St. Mary's, Woodbine, what school zone, all those different things. So city taxes or no city taxes. So that is kind of house by house basis, but overall you're gonna have a little bit more affordability when it comes to purchasing a home in Kingsland. But with that, the homes tend to go a little bit faster in Kingsland. We do have a little bit more inventory just because we have a higher amount of new construction. But when it's the heat of the market, and really our strong market here is spring and summer, just like anywhere else, then those homes tend to go a little bit faster. So the housing market overall is pretty strong in Kingsland, and you can find some awesome new construction, but you can also find some older homes as well that have maybe been recently renovated, or ones that you can put your personal touch on and renovate as well. So if these 7 things did not scare you off and you want to know more about living in Kingsland, Georgia, I put together an entire playlist right here that you can binge watch. And once again, my name is Cassie Long with Horizon Realty, and I I help people from all over relocate right here to coastal Georgia. So if you're thinking of making a move, I would love to talk with you. I'll put all my information here on the screen and down in the description box below, and I hope to chat with you soon about moving to Kingsland, Georgia.